Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is our meeting, Board of Directors, regular meeting for Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Director Saylors.
Present.
Director Weber.
Present.
Director Sheetz is absent for the record. Director Goold. Absent for the record. Director Wood.
Here.
Director Rice.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Director Costa.
Here.
President Clark.
Here.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to pledge our allegiance to our flag. Director Saylors, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director. Next, we have a Metro Cable announcement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan 5 District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is also webcast at metro14.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays on Monday, June 12th, 2023, and Thursday, June 15th at 12 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at YouTube.com/Metro Cable 14. Next, we go to public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within this jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
We'll try something different today. Attendees, if you would like to present anything to the board, please raise your hand and I will give you the option to unmute yourself. Looks like no response.
Hearing none. Let's go to consent items. Directors, you've had a chance to look at the consent items. Do you have any questions? No questions? Let's hear none. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, second.
Motion by Director Weber and second by Director Wood. Call the roll call, please.
Yes. Director Saylors.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Costa.
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Next thing, we got a public hearing, and this public hearing would be of amending the medical aid and ambulance transport user fee ordinance. We have CFO O'Toole and EMS Assistant Chief Rudnick presenting.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Chief Haverty, colleagues and members of the public. Able to Chief Financial Officer. Presenting with me tonight is Mr. Ken Campo, along with finance consultant to the district, and we'll develop this proposal that you're considering. For this agenda item, I'll be discussing the first reading to amend ordinance 2017-01 related to the district's medical aid and ambulance transport user fees. Metro established EMS fees that defray the cost of providing ambulance transport services and state property tax for other non-cost recovery services. EMS charges cannot exceed the cost of providing EMS services. Earlier tonight, you considered on the consent agenda and supported an item that would increase the current EMS fee amounts by the latest consumer price index growth rate. This practice of updating the cost of EMS transport fees based on CPI changes goes back to August of 2017 when this board adopted that annual practice by ordinance. And what was not established at that time, however, was a process to revisit the fees themselves and determine if they reasonably reflect and cover actual costs that are on par with similar organizations. As a general rule, fees should be reviewed and adjusted every 5 years or whenever there's significant changes to the fee structure. It has been about 7 years now. So under Health and Safety Code statute, the board may charge a fee to cover the cost of any service which the district provides, but limits the amount of the fee to the cost reasonably borne by the district in providing the service. The district is recovering approximately 1/3 of the cost of providing the EMS services, with the balance covered by district property taxes and other general operating funds. Given increases in the cost of labor, medical supplies, and ambulances since 2017, staff was appropriate to undertake a more thorough review of the cost of providing EMS related services and ensure that fees are being charged for such service and properly aligned with current costs. Staff's goals in providing these fees were to, and looking at these fees was to decrease reliance on property taxes and other general fund operating revenues, ensure EMS cost recovery is at least keeping pace with the growth rate of EMS costs, establishing a methodology to support and increase EMS fees, and identify opportunities to streamline and lower costs associated with EMS service and billing. The agenda item before you now would modify and increase our current EMS fees to improve cost recovery and establish parity with similar organizations. The proposal also follows what other public medical transport providers have done in converting to a single ambulance transport fee or base rate, as opposed to a separate rates for advanced life support and basic life support. The fee changes are found on page 46 of your staff report. As a reminder, these changes are relative to the July 1, 2023 CPI increase just passed on the consent item. And the changes are: the first responder fee would increase from $447 to $500. The treat no transport fee would be replaced by the treat no transport fee is currently $447. It would be replaced by a assessment at sea fee, assessment at scene fee of $500. There would be an emergency ambulance transport base rate established at $2,780, replacing the ALS bundle base rate, which is $2,325, and BLS bundle base rate, $2,114. Mileage would be increased from $41 to $50. Oxygen from $171 to $178. Night charge from $152 to $158. Cardiac monitor from $133 to $138. The recommended fee adjustments are estimated to generate an additional $4 million in EMS cost recovery during fiscal year 23-24. Not approving the fee adjustments would result in increased use of property taxes and other general operating fund sources to fund the EMS system costs. Staff recommends adopting Ordinance 2023-01, amending Ordinance 2017-01, and medical aid ambulance transport user fees. If approved tonight, this agenda item will have a second reading at your June 22nd meeting, and then would be effective approved on July 24th. And thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. I'm now opening a public hearing and call for public comment.
Attendees, if anyone would like to present anything from the board at this time, please go ahead and raise your hand and I'll give the opportunity to unmute yourself. No response.
Okay. So I'm now closing the public hearing, and we're seeking approval of staff recommendation and adopt the first reading of the ordinance. Do we have any questions? No questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Second. Wood, second by Director Costa. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Saylors.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Sheetz. Absent. Director Gould, absent. Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Costa.
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next on the agenda, we go to action items. First on the agenda is fiscal year 2023-24 capital improvement program. We got Aaron Castleberry, our administrative analyst.
Good evening, directors. Wait a moment for the presentation. All right, thanks for having me tonight. I'm Erin Castleberry, Administrative Analyst in Planning and Development. And pleased to bring you tonight an overview of the proposed capital improvement plan for fiscal year 23-24 through fiscal year 27-28. So as you know, the purpose of our CIP is to facilitate and memorialize the capital needs and goals in order to develop and support the physical infrastructure of the district. We do this by identifying these capital needs, which would be facilities, infrastructure, apparatus equipment, and PPE needed. And then we plan for the funding of these projects to ensure that existing and future capital needs are met in accordance with our strategic plan. So we've gone over this before, and the CIP development process is a coordinated planning effort across all divisions, with the capital project planning process managed by planning and development, and then the finance and budget process managed by the finance division. So this year, as you know, the CIP is made up of both a 1-year capital outlay plan and also a 5-year projection of capital needs. So based on the information submitted this year, the projected 5-year capital need is just over 200 million. And you can see the breakdown there between the different project categories. 81.8 million for apparatus and equipment, 47.6 for new construction, at 31.1 million for station remodel and expansion projects, 27 million for facilities repair and replacement, 4.8 million for land acquisition, 4.2 million for personal protective equipment, and 4 million for miscellaneous projects that don't otherwise fit into one of these categories. So looking now at just the projects that were submitted to begin in fiscal year 23-24, there were 53 projects submitted, totaling just over $100 million. This included 44 new projects and 9 carryover projects. The carryover projects were projects previously approved in a prior year, but needing to carry over into the new fiscal year. These carryover projects made up 46% of the total funding requested, while the new projects represented 54% of the funding requested. So just sort of as a backup to where we were last time I came before you, we just had finished the committee review of all of the projects, and finance was beginning to prepare the financing plan. So since then, we have actually completed the financing plan. The executive team has reviewed the recommendation. The proposed CIP was actually presented to the Finance and Audit Committee a couple of weeks ago. And so tonight we bring it to you for your review and hopeful approval. We will likely submit a revised CIP along with final budget, and that's just to account for any adjustments that need to be made between now and that time. So diving in to the recommended projects for fiscal year 23-24, as I stated, there were 53 projects submitted. 14 projects are recommended for funding. The total funding requested, as I stated, was 100.9 million, and the recommended funding for the 14 projects is 38.6 million. 34.5 million of this is recommended to fund carryover projects, while 4.1 is recommended to fund new projects. So we'll take a look at what each of these projects are. So carryover projects make up the largest portion of the recommended funding at 34.5 million, and they were prioritized above new projects since they were already previously approved by the board in a prior fiscal year. Carryover projects include 8.6 million for apparatus and equipment replacement projects that were delayed due to supply chain issues, 23.5 million for ongoing construction projects that are carrying forward into the new fiscal year, and 2.4 million for a land acquisition that was approved in the prior year that is only just now going to be ready for purchase in the new fiscal year. The new projects, there are 5 recommended at $4.1 million. These projects include 3.1 million for 12 new ambulances, 700,000 for the annual turnout replacement and recruit academy PPE, 125,000 for required frontage improvements at Station 41, and 200,000 for the final phase of the district station access control project, which will actually be grant funded, that project. 39 of the 53 submitted projects for fiscal year 23-24 were not recommended for funding, resulting in a total unfunded need of 62.3 million. This need includes 24 million in new construction projects, 21.8 million in unfunded apparatus and equipment replacement projects, 12.6 million in facilities repair and replacement projects, 3.7 million in miscellaneous projects, and 270,000 in unfunded miscellaneous PPE projects. These projects reflect unfunded needs and will likely be resubmitted next year as part of the CIP process. So, as I stated, we will likely submit a revised CIP with a final budget later this year to account for any adjustments that need to be made, including a review of all the projects that are currently in progress in the current fiscal year, just in case we missed any that needs to carry over. We do have several that are on target to finish in the current fiscal year. So we've got a couple weeks left and we will hope that they are done so we do not have to carry them over. Then the CIP process, the annual process, will start all over again in December with information going out to all the divisions and new projects for the next year being submitted probably in about February. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time, and I will take any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Casselberg.
If there are no questions, then we would.
Yeah, do we have a question.
Just a quick one, Aaron, thank you.
Yeah,
And I was just looking at the capital improvement program on not recommended for funding, and my question was, are those listed in a priority order, or are they just listed as they are in the paper and priority gets decided at a command or a staff level?
So on the slide, let's see, I can check here. On the slide, they are just listed from highest dollar amount down.
Okay.
So they're not listed in any priority order. Every project is assigned a priority or a ranking, I guess. We have a priority rating, which is one metric, and then we also have a ranking, which is what the committee does. And the ranking is basically putting them in order of
Need.
importance and need, basically. Yeah.
Thank you.
exactly right.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. President, I so move approval of staff recommendation.
I'll second. All right, Director Jones, motion, and Director Wood second. Call the roll call, please.
Yes. Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye. Next, we go to the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget. CFO Tool is gonna present. Again, and each one of these, we customarily go take one at a time for approval. That's it. Okay, see it.
Good evening again, and Mr. Chair, board members, Chief Haverty, colleagues and members of the public. Tonight we'll be presenting the preliminary budget for 23-24. Before I begin my presentation, I wanted to offer Fire Chief Haverty if he wanted to make any opening remarks. Chief Haverty, did you want to make any opening remarks on the preliminary budget, or should I just dive right in?
I'd like you to proceed, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The preliminary budget is built on the most recent enacted budget for 22-23 mid-year budget, which you passed in March, and incorporates the department's budget request and fiscal forecast for the upcoming year. The material presented tonight can be found in the preliminary budget distributed to you in your meeting packet. And I want to note at the outset that I know several of you were at the Finance and Audit Committee 2 weeks ago or in the audience. The numbers have improved, and that's almost exclusively attributable to the service delivery plan that the board adopted that night. So that generated considerable savings in the overtime expenditure line, and so that has been updated. So you'll notice the numbers that may look a little bit better than a couple of weeks ago. So I want to make that clear at the outset. So moving on, here's the agenda for tonight. So we'll begin with an overview of the budget. Look as a whole, looking at starting fund balances, revenues, expenditures, transfers, and ending fund balance for each fund. Next, we'll focus on the general fund, revenues and expenditures. Then we'll turn to the updated general fund forecast that covers the budget year and 4 subsequent years. And then a slide on the financing aspects of the CIP, which we just heard about, and sort of tying the two together. And finally, the recommendation and your budgets. So this slide is the fiscal summary, the top line information most often requested. So when you get the question, like how big is the Metro Car budget? This slide should answer that. And how much reserve we have has that as well. So I just wanted to get the big picture out front. So for fiscal year 2024, we expect to see both revenues and transfers from all funds climb to over 300 million. Revenues for general fund are 266.4 million and all funds 310.5. Expenditures for general fund 282.5 million and all funds 344.4. Net transfers are 17.3 million for the general fund and 14.8 for all funds. The change in fund balance for general fund is almost 1.2 million. You see in the slide there, and the change in all funds is a negative 19.1. So the couple things to note about the all funds change is a negative number is a contribution is a combination of a few things. Mainly it's the Zinfandel project where we received almost 13 million, and we expect this, and that is a new fund here that we expect to spend the entirety this year. So that is the change in fund balance of 13 million right there. The additional parts are also capital related, and the development impact fees fund and the capital facilities fund. Whereas you see and saw on the CIP, we have more spending coming from those areas for stations, mainly for stations and projects. And as shown at the bottom there, the general fund reserve is 37.3 million, which is a 12.8% reserve. And incidentally, when I presented this 2 weeks ago, it was 11.6%. You can see the change there. So this is your the slide shows the condition of every fund on one sheet, and it's the beginning balance. The top shaded line there is what we expect to have. We expect the balance to be at the end of this current year, and that's shown July 1 the next day, just so to start the fiscal year. And then the shaded line below, that's how we expect to end the year. So those shaded lines can be considered sort of your savings account. This is how much is in there. It doesn't and only reflects the sort of the checking account transactions at the end of the fiscal year typically. So to give you an example, well, I'll go through each of them, but the general fund starts off with a $36.1 million balance at the beginning of 23-24. Revenues 266 million, as I said. Expenditures of 282.5 million. We have other financing sources, primarily IGT, which I'll talk about momentarily. Adds in 17.3 almost. So you get a change in fund balance, you're adding 1.2 million, and that shows up in the ending fund balance of the general fund, so it grows by 1.2 million. Capital facilities fund, we have a beginning fund balance of 6.3 million, expenditures of 16.8. We have other transfers in of other financing sources of 12 million, and so that has a negative change in fund balance of 4.8, but still the balance of the fund is 1.6 million, still positive. And lease properties fund starts with a balance of 713,000. We add 1.2 million in revenues, lease revenues, expenditures at 644,000. So your change in fund balance, the difference between revenues and expenditures, 545,000. And so your ending fund balance grows relative to where it started to 1.3 million. The grants funds starts with 200,000. Revenues of 4.7 million, expenditures of 4.8. You have other financing, you have a small amount, $4,000 coming in. So you have a negative change in fund balance. Still a positive ending fund balance for the grant fund, 31,000. Development impact fees is 4.2 million, as you see there, with the revenues and expenditures, which are quite a bit higher, 4.7 million. That's related to station costs. Other financing sources coming in, you get a net change in fund balance of negative 3 million. So the 4.2 you started the fiscal year with would be 1.1 million at the end of the fiscal year in the development impact fees fund. The IGT fund, fairly straightforward. We expect to have a zero balance. We expect to use all those funds every year, and we'll receive in 23-24, 36 million. The entire balance will be spent in expenditures to help to pull down the revenues from the state, and also to go to IGT related expenditures, anything general fund related, and all goes to the general fund. Special projects fund, there's the 1.8 million that we currently have, we expect to spend the full amount on the project. So that's the kind of line by line, you can see what's happening in each fund there. Next slide. So now we're going to take a look at the, just turn to general fund revenues. So turning to the general fund, starting with revenues. This is an overview slide as well. These are the major changes. That's the mid-year budget. That is the reference. There's good news. Everything is growing on this slide. Property taxes were 199.6 million. That's a $10.6 million increase over the current year. Incidentally, this will be the 11th consecutive year of property tax growth and the 13th consecutive year of total revenue growth for the district. Charges for services is 61.6 million, which is a $1.8 million increase. EMS medic fees will rise to 46.9 million, which is a $2.4 million increase over the current year. And EMS revenue will include the increase in fees, which we considered earlier tonight. Net IGT transfer to the general fund is 22.7 million, which is a $7.1 million increase from the mid-year. In total revenues and other financing sources are 289 million, which is an $18.9 million increase relative to the current year. So these are the top line major changes to general fund revenues. This next slide, I mentioned we talked about IGT for a moment. So the two IGT programs are increasingly part of a general fund revenues. So I wanted to give them a slide. All IGT revenues are to be transferred to the general fund. And the VRP, the two programs, the voluntary rate range program, public provider ground emergency medical transport program, these are the two components of IGT. We're taking the top of the slide first. The VRP explains the VRPs where district funds are transferred to the state Department of Healthcare Services, who combines local agency funds to pull down federal funds and provide medical transport services for uninsured Medi-Cal beneficiaries. That's the nature of the program. 23-24 revenues are 17.1 million with an IGT transfer, which is the amount that we have to put up to pull down the 17 million. So you have a net income of 10.3 million. The PPGMT program was established under AB 1705 in 2019. It rolled out, became effective on January 1 of this calendar year. And I provided in that table there kind of a snapshot. You can see what happened over the first 2 years. Revenues to the district this current year were 9.9 million, almost 10 million. Next year, that effectively doubles. Excluding we have expenses, the IG, which is the IGT transfers to DHCS to pull down that money, as I just mentioned. Was about 3.7 this year, and it's going to be basically double that, almost 7.4 next year. So your net IGT revenue at that point is 6.3 this year and 12.5 next year. There are some important offsets to mention as well. The loss of the GEMT program, we have the PPGMT replaced IGT. PPGMT replaced GEMT. So there's a $1.4 million loss in the current year, which was a 6 months of a program. So you get a full year of 2.8 in the next fiscal year. Also, there's a member behavioral wellness incentive that was part of the negotiated agreement. If we had this sort of growth in IGT, that we would be able to stand up this member benefit, and so that does offset the PPMG growth as well. So let's look at the net income from the PPGEMT program. Now turning to the expenditure side of general fund, these are your highlight bullets. Projected general fund expenditures will be $282.5 million, which is a $17.8 million increase from 22-23, 6.7%. The labor budget, which includes both compensation and benefits, will reach $237.1 million, which is 14.1 million higher than the current year. And labor costs will be approximately 84.1% of general fund expenditures. And as noted there, 83.6% of general fund revenues and net IGT transfers in. Without including those IGT revenues, which we understand has been an uncertain revenue source for some time. However, with the passage of AB 1703, PPGMT now has statutory backing. But if you were to take that out, the share of labor as a total of general fund revenues would be 89%. And that's another one of those numbers that a couple of weeks ago I reported that at 90.3, but with the changes made with the delivery plans, now dropped to 89. I want to clarify those two numbers. Service and supplies costs are $42.7 million, which is $4.3 million higher than current year. Let's take a closer look at some expenditure categories. So starting with labor, let's see. Labor expense has two major components, compensation and benefits. Compensation includes things like wages, incentives, paramedic education, longevity, includes overtime, staffing, out of class pay, sick and leave buybacks. The benefits side includes things like payments to PERS, payments to STRS, employee medical costs, workers' compensation, dental and vision plans. This data is drawn from the labor cost general fund table in the preliminary budget. And the total compensation, so starting at the top section there, total compensation, 134.7 million, which is 12.7 million more than last year. That's reflecting a second 5% raise on January 1, consistent with the MOU. And let's see. And that number is actually about $1 million higher than what was presented to the Finance and Audit 2 weeks ago, because we added in the cost of the MMPs that would be higher. It also includes decreased constant staffing. And again, the same reason related to service delivery plan implementation that would would move firefighter personnel off the paramedics and into the pool. You have a substantial decrease in your constant staffing or overtime costs. Let's see, incentive pays for EMTs, paramedics, and hazmat and longevity are about 2.7 million higher than the current year. And employee behavioral wellness incentive is there again for 2.8 million. It's added. Total benefits, so the lower half of the page is 106.5 million, includes CalPERS pension contributions like safety and miscellaneous. It's $4 million higher. Includes increased employee medical costs of 2.6 million. We normally update that number in the final, so we put in what we know now, but expect that number to change when we come back in a couple months with the final budget. Includes decreased workers' compensation claims of 3.6 million. So if you recall in the 22-23 budget, we budgeted workers' compensation at 2.4 million. When we met in the mid-year, the number had gotten quite higher, and we bumped it up to 7.2 million. What we are proposing in the budget to budget it at 3.6 million, which is about the average that we've seen every month. It's about $300,000. There were some unusually high claims and so forth, which could be funded from the reserve, or next year could be funded from the $4 million reserve, or they could be funded we could do something that's within the mid-year where we move money into that at mid-year if there's that sort of claim. And those are the two main relief valves. We also have an excess insurance fund. So that can also be used if there's extraordinary claims. Let's see. And the increased STRS contribution for retirees, that number reflects approximately what STRS was recommending we pay this year to maintain a level payment schedule over the period that we pay them for the cost of retirees from the former fire systems districts. Let's see, service and supplies. So let's see, total service and supplies budget is 42.7 million, which is $4.3 million higher than 22-23, 11.2% increase. That includes 2.4 million for services, which is mainly related to the AMR additional services. That cost the AMR's additional two services was about 1.6 million. Includes 334,000 increase for insurance premium costs, including liability and workers' compensation. Number will be updated when we get final numbers in final. And also when a new third-party administrator is selected, we'll be able to update that number. Let's see, 336,000 safety clothing supplies, mainly material costs and adding personnel. We add personnel, we need to have clothing and supplies for them. 380,000 for computer services, which includes some cyber protection elements, and 140,000 for vehicle maintenance supplies, largely related to inflation and supplies costs for those apparatus. The last category of expenditures, the small one, is general fund, debt service contributions. Just want to mention that those are the total cost of these items declined by nearly 900,000 relative to the current year, mainly due to the expiration of GENT quality assurance fee program, which required us to transfer up 1.8 million. That has gone away and helped reduce this item. But what did increase under this item was the payment to the Sacramento County for them to update their property tax administration system, which the participants are paying for. General fund service payments on lease revenue bonds is 267,000 as noted. Here's the capital outlay summary. So this slide summarizes capital outlay spending for the capital facilities fund, development impact fee fund, special projects fund, project, and federal grants. It ties the capital outlay summary found on page 31 of the budget report, and some but not all the items shown in this page are shown in the CIP. Recall that the distinction of being not on the CIP is it needs to cost more than $50,000 and have a useful life of more than a year. So some of the major capital outlay projects shown on the slide there are the 5 Type 1 engine, 4.1 million, 6 ambulances, 6 new ambulances, 1.6 million, remounts of 1.2 million. Both of those are in the CIP. 3 ambulance replacements, 824,000. And then we have some major facilities projects coming up, which includes the grant line 220 land acquisition at 2.4 million from the Development Impact Fees Fund. The Vineyard Stations bill at 10.2 million, mostly from the Development Impact Fees Fund. And the Zinfandel Training Center is 12.7 million for the Special Projects Fund. Now, turning our attention to the long-term budget forecast. So I laid out the assumptions here. This forecast used our important assumption I wanted to note is that we use our property tax consultant's most recent projections, which take us to 27, 28. We incorporated the current MOU costs and added a 2% annual growth rate in compensation from 25, 26 through 27, 28. So there's an assumption there. Just want to make that clear. PPG, MT, and VRPs, the 2 elements of the IGT fund, are growing at 2% annually beginning in 24, 25. The forecast assumed a 7.3% inflation rate for 23, 24 based on the CBLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and stepping down about 1% a year. So inflation gradually being tamed is the assumption there. The cost of borrowing is estimated at 4% through 24, 25. And then gradually steps down by about 0.5% over the course of the forecast there. A couple of displays show this forecast chart is a revenues and expenditures overview starting in 27-18, 5 years prior to the current year, and then going through 27-28. So you get 5 years before and 5 years after. Circled there in the middle are the current fiscal year 22-23, next year and the year after. But to introduce the slide a little more, the green bar is your revenues and the red sort of pattern bar that is expenditures. So you can see in 22-23, you have revenues. The green line is higher than the red line slightly. That's where we see the $1.16 million increase in general fund for the year. And then that continues in 23-24. 23-24 is where you see the $1.16 million increase. And then it does reverse in 24-25, which is also the third circle, moving from left to right. And that's showing that expenditures exceed revenues, or projected in that year to exceed revenues. And then that flips back with revenues exceeding expenditures in the general fund for this up to the next 3 years through the forecast. This is a slide on general fund revenues and property tax growth. There are 2 major takeaways from this slide. First is that reaching the 15% reserve target will be elusive through 27-28. If you look at the slide, the left column has a dollar increments of 5 million. You can see what the reserve amount would be. And the blue bars are tied to the numbers at the left. And at the right side, you have reserve percentages, and those tied to the red line. And as you can see, the 15% red line is not reached over the course of this forecast. Let's see. So as we've seen, labor cost is by far the largest part of our budget. In the last MOU, pushed that share higher. Wage increase of at least 5% is anticipated in January in the course of the MOU, which largely explains why the general fund reserve declines in 23-24. For those of you, again, who viewed that finance and audit meeting, you'll notice that the general fund forecast reserve is no longer around 9% in those out years. It's now around 11%. So that's the benefit of the service delivery plan right there. The extent we move staff into the pool, it decreases overtime spending and improves our general fund reserve. Let's see. So jumping ahead. The second takeaway from this slide is evident in the table below the chart. So you got it says property tax growth 22-23 to 27-28. So those years correspond with the years above, but a main driver in all of this is property tax growth. And we've seen and heard in the news that, the lack of turnover in homes, the cost of borrowing has gone up, and that has depressed home buyers, depressed the home buying market, I should say, and the home buyers. Let's see, the forecast we used, we're using our consultant forecast here. You can see the property tax estimate they provided through 27-28, but the percent change year over year. So in 22-23, we think it's ultimately going to be about a 6.2% growth from the prior year. That'll be our gain. But then in the next year, it'll be 5.6. And then it starts to head around 3%. So that alone is really eroding revenues relative to what we've seen. But let's keep in mind it is positive. It's still remaining positive. But we've seen 5 and 6 pretty consistently for the last decade. So that is our current projection. We'll get a new projection in July. So when I come back for final budget, I'll have something more recent for you to consider. So turning to the CIP, leaving the forecast, turning to the CIP, this slide just want to, by reference, acknowledge the tie to the CIP here. So the financing plan for the CIP and the budget includes $38.6 million in spending from 23-24 to 25-26 on 14 new projects. So we've got 5 new projects totaling $4.1 million, and 9 carryover projects costing $34.4 million. The spending makeup is noted there is about 36% capital facilities fund, 35% capital facilities fund, 36% special projects fund, general fund at 16%, and development impact fees at 13%. The projects that were selected were previously presented. I've also provided on the slide. You can see the makeup of the total of 38.6. So, getting into a quick summary of what we just stormed through. The district budget is balanced. It adds 1.6 million to the general fund reserve. The overall growth of the budget reduces the general fund reserve from 13.4 to 12.8%. The district reliance on IGT is increasing. PPGMT and VRP add a net 22.9 million to the district budget. A small change there. The 22-23 MOU agreement is fully funded in 23-24. Persistent budget pressures and lower general fund reserves are forecasted if property tax growth slows and labor cost growth continues apace, significantly reducing capacity to address other needs. There are some investments in benefit costs made with this budget, specifically workers' compensation spending and SCRS contributions. With that, that concludes my presentation, and my recommendation is to approve the resolutions updating the and adopting the 23-24 budget. Before turning to questions, often do just want to take a moment to thank the divisional budget officers whose input created this budget, and of course the finance staff. Special thanks to Tara Mailer, Sarah Ortiz, and Ron Ebedrad who put this together. And with that concludes our presentation. What are the questions?
We have, we will take each one of these items individually from A to F. So, and then after, I mean, if we have any questions, we might want to address those before. Do we have any questions?
The questions?
Yes, we want to do some questions. Yes, go ahead. And then afterwards, we'll take each one of them for approval.
Very good, thank
Okay.
you. On the general fund expenditure sheet, you are stating an 84.1 and then an 82.6 number, and then you're also speaking of a 90 or 89 and a 90% number. What are the differences in those two numbers you're talking about?
Sure. Just take the expenditures, that's just simply labor costs divided by total expenditures. On the revenue side, there's a couple ways to measure it. The 83.6 includes IGT revenues as part of our revenues. That is just like general fund is considered revenue. That is a recent development. I know that's something that was discussed during the recent MOU development. So I wanted to get that because that's been previously discussed. I wanted to put this on the slide, but I have previously presented, and you can read in the staff report too, that if you take general fund alone, which has historically been the practice, then it's 89%.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We've got a big guy here.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
Oh, it's leaning forward.
Put my hands.
Sorry about that.
No. Thank you very much for the presentation, Dave, or Mr. O'Toole. I appreciate it very much. And I did chewed Mr. O'Toole's ear off for a while this afternoon on some of these issues. And I appreciate all the feedback and the dialogue that we had. It's important. We have a lot of intergovernmental agency transfers. We have a number of there should be several lines underneath that one budget line. It's pulled out in different parts of our budget, like on page 7, page 24, page 39. It's different references to intergovernmental transfers. I would strongly suggest that we get all this under one heading so we see the breakdown of these monies. For example, there's VRRP, there's PPGEMT, and someplace in here it also broke out about $4+ million of other intergovernmental transfers like redevelopment funds through the portal. I think it would be very beneficial for us as a board and for the public for clarity to be able to have a list of all those together so we see the different sections of all the IGT that we get. It'd be a little bit better to get a handle on what these numbers are. Additionally, this PPGEMT, all this, and VRRP, these are fairly new programs, and I think it's important that we're able to look at those numbers readily instead of trying to dig through 4 different pages of it. Again, that would help serve with having all of it in one spot would help serve that purpose for us to keep an eye on. Now, are we going to get those quarterly, mid-year, twice a year, once a year? When will we know those numbers, Mr. O'Toole?
In terms of well, they'll be presented at all the budgets, of course. So in 3 months on the final, and then mid-year. In terms of, I mean, we can report it at any time, but those are the only scheduled updates on those.
Well, when are we going to get the money from PPGEMT? When is that? How is that scheduled to be paid out?
Sure. The DHCS is working with the providers, and the providers should be paying us through Whitman, through our billing provider. And but I think, as I mentioned in this before, the plan participants, the healthcare participants have been slow to adapt. Some of them, I should say all of them have been slow to adapt, but some of them are kind of coming on board and catching up. So we're talking hundreds of thousands in the February timeframe when it should have been millions. So they're coming on board with the PPGEMT program. It's definitely something we're watching closely, and the fire chief has spoken about the work group and so forth. So this is an issue that we're acutely aware of.
No, that is critical, and that's why I'm asking for this play out so we can see exactly how much we have in real time. And for those historically who perhaps were not aware, this is part of the reason why we didn't count GEMT in the general fund, because we never knew until later how much money we were really going to get. And we had that discussion, I think it was at Finance Audit Committee, about there was an $8 million shortage one year and it really put us back. And they say, oh, we'll pay you next year. So all of a sudden they got a 1-year freebie without paying us. It's probably much more complicated than that, but basically that was the end result. And so we need to keep a separate tab on these payments, both VRRP as well as PPGEMT, so that we know what we're dealing with and when we get it, and we can plan accordingly.
I agree.
Okay. Any other questions for CFO? Okay, let's go through the approval. I'll entertain a motion for
We need to ask for public comment first, right? Before we,
not you.
no? Don't
You
we?
don't-
No,
You don't have to.
For
You do.
mention that?
No, we
No,
just
no.
go to approve it.
We ask for public comment at the front end of the.
Right.
For actions for items either on the agenda or not on the
Right.
agenda.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we don't, yeah, so let's go through item 8, resolution 2023-24 preliminary budget for the general operating fund 212A. Like the motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, motion.
Second.
Okay, Director Costa, Director Weber, call the roll please, madam.
Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, resolution, 2023-24 preliminary budget for the Capital Facilities Fund 212D.
So moved.
Director Rice,
I'll second.
okay. And Director Jones,
Jones.
call the roll please.
Yes, Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next,
Motion passes.
item C, resolution, 2023-24 preliminary budget for the Grants Fund 212G.
Mr. President, I move grants funding 212G.
Okay, Director Jones.
Second.
It sounds like Wood is right close to me, so Director Wood is. Seconded, call the roll please.
Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa.
Aye.
And President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, item D, resolution, 2023-24 preliminary budget for the Development Impact Fees Fund, 212. Aye.
Mr. President, I move.
Second.
Rice, okay, Jones second.
Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item E, resolution 2023-24 preliminary budget for the Lease Properties Fund 212L. Motion,
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Jones,
Second.
Costa, second. Call the roll please.
Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next, finally, 23-24 preliminary budget for the IGT Fund 212M.
Mr. Chair, I move.
Jones,
Second.
was that
Rice, second.
Okay, Rice, second. Okay, call the roll please.
Director Saylors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion approved.
All resolutions were.
Yes, do you have a?
There's one more. that-
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention, there's one more about that.
Oh, wait, which?
I think we got all of them.
Yeah, looks to me like,
Which one?
I just did F. That was F that I just did.
A, B,
Oh,
C, D, E, and F. Is there something that we
Is
missed?
there another one?
Page 129,
We don't have an S.
No,
Yes.
no, all we have is, A through, F.
A, D, G.
I didn't make sure to get it out.
Yeah, no, okay, did we, cause I think we did, Fund 212A.
Yeah.
We did 212D. We did, 212G. The grant fund, yeah, and then we did D,
Right.
Development Impact, 212, I. And then we did, Lease Properties, 212, L,
Two,
and then, 212M,
six,
or did we not?
yeah,
six
There-
votes.
we'll have to come back with it, but there's another one for the Special Projects Fund. That's,
Okay, well, it's not on our agenda.
Yeah, vote on it.
Is everybody concur? Okay.
I'll be excited to hear about the special project business.
Okay, well, motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Fu. All right. Third item on the action items, disclosure of material expenditure, excess workers' compensation, insurance, Safety National Casualty Corporation, and that would be DC Bailey presenting.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Board Chair, Chief Haverty, General Counsel, Board Clerk, and Art. Yes, I got that printer a little small. Here to present the disclosure of material expenditure. The summary of this and discussion is USI Insurance Services provided the district insurance brokerage services this year and managed the marketing of the district's excess workers' compensation liability insurance. This type of coverage provides the district with additional insurance coverage in the event that a catastrophic workers' compensation loss that could occur in excess of our self-insured retention, the portion the district pays before the insurance pays. After reviewing quotes, the self-insured retention, $4 million per occurrence were selected. After having the excess workers' compensation insurance policy in place, there has not been an instance where a policy has been filed because all workers' compensation claims for the district have stayed under $3 million per occurrence. So for about the last 10 years, we had a $3 million coverage. And it's our recommendation that we move to $4 million, and this is about $140,000 less. We had discussion with general counsel seeking legal advice as well. Initially, one of the thoughts was, we have $4.5 million in our work comp fund right now. One of the thoughts was, well, why don't we just take this $500,000 a year and put it in there and start building a reserve up? But based on what the recommendation is with general counsel, that liability would be too high. This is if one case exceeds $4 million or more, it would kick in before it was $3 million or more. So it is a catastrophic event, but is it likely? Possibly. When this was developed, the policy, I remember it was when Chief Hinkey was here, and our reserves were set at 5% at that time. So I understand why we went to 3 million and why it was important that we had it, because we didn't have the reserve levels that we currently have. But it is our recommendation to go to 4 million, which is $1 million more. So it's actually $1 million more it would have to be before it kicks in. And like I stated, about $140,000 less a year. We sent out 5 quotes, 3 declined, 2 came back, and it is our recommendation. And the fiscal impact is budgeted. It's $477,047 to go with what we're recommending this night. And this is an action item, and we are recommending approval of this and adoption of this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions of Chief Bailey? No. Okay, hearing none. We need a motion to approve staff recommendation. Director Weber?
Second.
Okay, Director Rice, second. Call the roll, please.
Yes, Director Saylors?
Aye.
Director Weber?
Aye.
Director Wood?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Costa?
Aye.
Director Clark?
Aye. Finally, on the action items, thank you, Chief Bailey. Yes. Thank you, Eric. All right. Finally, consideration of and board direction and developing a lift assist fee. This is just going to be discussion, and we're going to provide a direction to staff and Chief Haverty.
Thank you, President Clark, members of the board, public, my colleagues in the department. So Mr. Weber, Director Weber brought this idea forward, and we met and talked about it. The idea of establishing a fee or a penalty for lift assist. So lift assist is a call type that our crews go on, both in private dwellings as well as convalescent homes, other adult care facilities. We go to about, used to be, I can't get off the floor, right? So our call volume in totality for these annually is about 4,000 runs a year. And we will help in a facility, will help staff, or they will stand and observe while our crews lift the patient off the floor usually and back into a bed or a chair. The patients, as you can imagine, range in all types, including obese patients. And it's the obese patients that we can sustain injuries, back injuries predominantly with our members. So we did some just preliminary research on this concept, and there is there were a number of fire departments in the Midwest that have a lift assist type of policy and fee structure. In California, we could only find one other fire department. It happens to be close by. The Rockland Fire Department has a city ordinance that allows fees for this. Interestingly, and the reason I presented it to you as a fee or a penalty, the city of Tacoma, Washington charges a penalty, and they have an initial rate and a secondary rate on a second call and a higher rate on a third call out, and then it remains at that high level. The fees would be, or penalty would be charged to the facility, in most cases, there is no fee charged or penalty for a private dwelling, a private citizen who's calling from their home. So, you know, that's kind of it in a nutshell as to what the concept would be. Some considerations for you would be, if we approached it, we would approach a fee schedule much like what you heard tonight in the ambulance fee schedule. And then you would have a recurring resolution to return to that and look at that schedule as appropriate over the course of years. Since it would be a new concept for this department, and that's why I'm asking you for direction tonight. I would expect over time pushback from the Convalescent Hospital Association. If there is one, I'm not really sure. I think there is, I'm not sure, but I think that they would, when they find out about it and start getting bills, you'll see members of that group come before you. I think that you will probably receive the fire chief would receive a lot of requests for a deferment or waiving fees. So that would have to be considered how you want to approach that. Since the billing is, we're not billing an insurance company, we're billing a private entity. I think that our return rate would be fairly low, rather than billing a Medicare or insurance companies like the ambulance fees. Our return rate's pretty high. So those are all the kind of the lay of the land right now, the considerations. I can, many of you were in the fire service and you did this as well as I did. And I think at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you get a call for this, you wonder why we are there, supplementing the labor force of the facility. That's the essence of I think the genesis for why this is before us today. So I ask for your opinion and your guidance on how you'd like me to approach it.
Okay. First, we have Director Wood and then Director Saylors.
Chief, on what basis do we distinguish charging the healthcare facilities but not a private residence for the same service?
Purely discretionary.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Director Saylors?
Out of the 4,000 calls a year, was there any division between how many of those were in private residences versus in the care homes?
Yeah, I don't think we've disaggregated the number yet, Director Saylors,
Okay.
but that would certainly be something that we would do next if you give me direction to move forward. Yeah.
Director Rice? Oh, you're
I'm done.
sorry.
Thank
Director
you.
Rice?
2 things. I would never, and I'll never support a fee to a resident. If we have a resident that calls in distress and it doesn't matter. And I think we're in agreement. The facility is a different thing. And I think we really need to look at that.
Absolutely.
And the one that Director Wood, you brought it up. And the one thing that I think would be key for us, and what kind of staffing do they have at the facilities? RNs, MDs, LVNs, and nurses assistants. I think we need to look at their training curriculum, because I just have to bet that the curriculum includes how to lift people. Now, that's not to say that the facility might have a different policy, and here's where I'm fully in support of pursuing this. I can't tell you how many people over the course of my 30 years, Chief, you too, Bob, that we have gone to that have been left on the floor that could have been given care. and rendered aid and moved to a safer and a better position. And I'll just say it, the excuses that we all endured, Cindy, you were there too. I'm sorry, Ed Gang. I'm surrounded.
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry about that. We've all done this.
Yes, we have.
And the facilities, the day of, that's not my job, you know,
Mhm.
it just, the folks that live there, they cannot advocate for themselves for the most part. That's our job. That if you're wearing a badge out there, you raise your hand on the day that you got hired, and your job is to provide that. And I know that you do that, and that's what makes me very proud of this organization. But I think this is our time to advocate on a different level for those patients. And if they truly can't, you know, then you're darn right, you're paying a fee. But this is about the people we serve, and we have to advocate for them.
Mhm.
So I support it. I support the concept. It'll take some time, but I think we're on the right track.
Research it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Director Saylors?
Many of these home care facilities that I've gone into actually have what they call a lift assist piece of machinery thing. And we've actually gone into the closet and gotten it out and used it to lift the patient up. So I don't understand. I never could understand why we had to go get that to use it for them.
It's true.
So that's something that's what used to frustrate me, was if they had that sitting in the closet, but we had to actually go get it and use it, especially with a heavy person. So.
Thank you, Director Saylors. Derek, whoever you had a comment?
Right, comment. So it sounds like what we're talking about is these facilities that may not have proper training or the proper tools to do this type of lift. We're being called in for that purpose. And it sounds like we're looking at the cost associated with that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. One of the things I think, Chief, no matter, I think we have to evaluate it.
That's where we're going.
Well, the reason I say this is because I get, I'm sure we all get quite a bit of comments, feedback from the public who feel like they're paying a lot for something they felt they were paid for. Right. And so I want to make sure that we do that due diligence to ensure that we've looked at and we've gotten feedback from the public. And you mentioned a particular association or group that we represent, and that we reach out to them and have that conversation prior to, rather than waiting for them just to show up one night to provide feedback. And I know that's not what you said. I just think it's important as we talk through, everything's costing something now. At some point, the public is going to push back.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Yeah.
I could, afterwards, I can get with you. I've got.
Sure.
It'll answer that question.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And once again, the object is to go have the chief look into it and evaluate it and then come back with a, rational set of answers.
Yeah.
Okay, and Director Jones?
Another differentiation that we might want to look into are the, let's say, residential house with 6 beds or less is one category. And then something like Eschaton facility with 200 rooms is another.
Yeah.
So we might need to look at those degrees. And if there's not an organization, there'll probably be one by 8 o'clock tonight. So we do need more research. This is very good. Citizens assist, of course. Gracie falls down, first story is U Street multiple times. Go and pick her up.
Right.
All right. That's just what we do. But for the care facilities and the staff, it was, everyone has anecdotes about this. But yeah, if this can help raise the level of attention to patient care, to residents' care in residential living facilities, if we keep that in mind, that will help us decide this.
And then we also have to consider our personnel, getting injured all the time when it's these institutions or should be able to handle it.
Yeah, well, their fee's not going to cover eye time.
Right,
No matter what.
No.
We go no matter what.
Yeah.
This is a way we're looking at to help
Absolutely.
try to mitigate some of the challenges we have financially.
Absolutely.
So I hear consensus from the board that
Absolutely.
you'd like us to look at it and bring you back some recommendations. And then also to, as we start this process, to meet with the association, if there's one represented here in Sacramento.
Right, and since this is an action item, I would.
One action.
Well, yeah, we had it, we listed it as an action item, but okay, we'll just have consensus.
Yeah, it's really a discussion,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
you know,
Discussion,
So we don't need a
direction to
motion.
staff.
All right.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
You're right, you did the draft.
I know what it is. No, exactly what it is.
Ways as far as the fee structure, one way, and then the penalty as another. I mean, which would be more effective as far as reducing that rate of assist. You folks are gonna dive into it deep. I appreciate that.
Okay, and we'll look at what the other institutions, the other, like Tacoma and Rockland are doing, and I mean, we'll come back and address that item. So,
Thanks,
but it was an action item, but okay, we'll.
Appreciate your help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Okay, let's go on to reports, please. Let's go on to reports. The president report, I don't have any report. Fire chief's report, Chief Haverty.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to welcome Milton Mora Zaragoza, hired as an accounting specialist in the finance division, effective June 1st. And last week, not a new hire, but it's an old hire, actually. Last week, I had the honor of recognizing engineer John Walsh for his 40 years of service with the district. It was great to go out to station 114 and give him his pin. I've never seen a 40-year pin, so it was pretty cool. And he was delighted that we made a fuss over him, I think, so it was good. And in recruitment, Human Resources is accepting applications for paramedic, internal and external, with final filing date of June 30th by 4 p.m. And recruiting for firefighter paramedic for the 24-1 Fire Academy, tentatively scheduled for January or February in 2024. The application deadline is July 7th by 4 p.m. But Melissa tells me that they're doing monthly interviews to try and bring people in, so we don't wait for them there to get them in the cycle. So that's I think that's a good plan for them. I appreciate her and her staff's work on that. We're also recruiting for the Metro Medic Program 23-1 drill instructors. The filing date was extended to June 16th. We have 3 instructors. We need 6. So talk it up if you could. And I would like to congratulate the personnel from our department who took the 2023 fire captain examination. And the eligibility list is effective immediately now and will end in June 2025. We have had 22 candidates who are on the list and looking for a promotion now, so that's good. Some just extras here. Chief Bailey and I attended a kickoff fundraising meeting with Supervisor Frost, Roger Mitchell, and a company called Good Life to discuss the restoration of the old fire station in Rio Linda. We did that last week. And tomorrow, June 9th, we have 2 events that'll take place. The first is at 9:30 a.m. I sent you a note on this one. It's just the rescheduled congressional briefing and tour of the Zinfandel training site with Congressman Amy Barra. If you have time, we'd love to have you out. And then secondly, on more of a sad note, there's a celebration of life for Battalion Chief John French at 11:30 a.m. at the Del Webb Lincoln Sports Pavilion on Del Webb Boulevard in Lincoln. Chief French retired in 1990 from the American River Fire District. And at that time, he was working out of Fire Station 1, Station 101 now. He began his career with the Arden Fire Department. And if you didn't know Chief French, he was a jewel of a man, like one of the kindest men I've ever known. So we have
It's actually kinder than you, Chief.
Huh?
He rivaled you in that category.
We have an engine company that's going to be there, and I'm going to be there to represent the department as well. That concludes my report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Chief. Next, we got operations report, Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, President Clark, good evening, directors, chief, and everybody here and online. A few updates from operations. I'm going to start off with the standards of cover and strategic plan update for you all. I'm happy to report that the standards of cover document itself is actually nearing completion at this point with a final draft for our review. We're anticipating that draft to be done by the end of the month, which is really, really good news. The staff has been working really hard on getting that done. Once this document is complete, as a reminder, we'll make the determination on the strengths and opportunities for improvement across the district as far as service delivery are concerned. And then we'll determine which of those opportunities should be prioritized to address the immediate needs in the district and to the community. And this is right in alignment with the strategic plan process that we've been discussing so much recently. And then once this information is compiled and the recommendations are developed with the member input, we'll bring back to you as the board the recommendations for review and adoption to support further that strategic planning process that we've been talking about as well. So that's really, really good news. A lot of work going into that. Another item and a follow-up to the action from last board meeting about transition of FDMs over to MMPs. Thank you for that direction, first off, on how to proceed of transitioning those MMPs or the FDMs over to MMP units. Again, the intent is to work through this transition to lower the mandatory callback that is going on specifically in the firefighter rank throughout the summer, as well as the brownout potential in the near term. And then while allowing that more sustainable strategic planning process to take over as we get closer to the end of the fall, the end of the calendar year, and then in earnest in the next fiscal year as we go forward to be more sustainable. To finalize the implementation of the transition as was directed by the board, I'm happy to say we have an upcoming planning meeting that's been scheduled with staff to determine the dates, workload, and how we're going to finish up phase one and parts of the phase two. I know the chief has reached out to you all about due to the pipeline that we have available to hire some of those MMP folks to be able to have a bigger impact sooner on those metrics that we're talking about. So that's good news. Just an update. We hosted in this room 2 days ago, the annual cooperators meeting. We had all 4 agencies in the county, large agencies, as well as CAL FIRE units, AEU and NEU were here. It was almost standing room only in attendance, so that was really good. I'm happy to say that it's a well-attended meeting annually, and Metro Fire and our partners we're pushing forward on making sure those relationships are strong. We talked about our local agreements, how we're going to interact throughout this wildland fire season and also outside of that based off of the all hazards approach we've been dealing with floods and things. But really the really biggest important part of that is the relationships before the incident. Our initial attack incident commanders and the folks that are meeting up at the tailgate, if you will, that's an opportunity for them to meet and greet each other and really develop those relationships early on to be more effective when the emergencies come. So thanks to John Graff, our Battalion Chief Graff, for hosting that. He did a good job facilitating. On an update to an injury to one of our members, on the early morning hours of Sunday, June 4th, our members responded to a structure fire in the Battalion 5 area. One of our members sustained some superficial and partial thickness burns to his ears, face, neck, wrists, and leg as a result of the incident. What I want to highlight here is our gratitude to the Firefighters Burn Institute and the liaison response team. Again, as they have done many times in the past when these unfortunate circumstances occur, they responded and assisted our member through the process after being transported to UC Davis. I am also happy to report that member was treated and released that same morning at UC Davis, so relatively minor in amount of the damage there, but obviously burns are burns. I spoke with him yesterday and happy to say that he's doing well. And he's got everything he needs right now. He's still following up with the Burn Institute and the clinic there. So again, it's important for us to recognize that partnership and the incredible level of care that provided here in our community based off the the Firefighters Burn Institute. I'll also say that Chief Lozano and the safety staff are working through putting out a blue sheet document, which looks at those initial factors involved in that incident. And we've also are going to look further into any, once we get the information back about the gear and things like that, we're looking at it thoroughly to make sure there was no issues there to avoid any further down the road problems that might be experienced. So more information to come on that potentially, but we're still waiting for that detail back. And then finally, I know, we go on a lot of incidents. That's not a surprise to anybody, but I did feel like it was important to highlight an email recently about what our station crews out at Station 32 have done over the last couple of months from one of the members of the community. They sent an email to Chief Haverty and I talked about it and I asked if I could share a little bit of that tonight with you all because I think it highlights the level of professionalism and the job that our men and women do out there every day when they're responding to incidents, as well as across the other divisions, performing inspections and interacting with the public. So she writes, and this is just part of the email. There was a long email with reading 2 small paragraphs here just to give you an idea of her appreciation. The station treated me with nothing but the utmost dignity, care, and respect. I was never made to feel self-conscious for the help I needed. I was transported like precious cargo to the emergency department to get the care I desperately needed. I feel compelled to share this with you because they were simply extraordinary during the hardest thing I'll ever go through in my life. Ever. 2 separate sentences. She wanted to reinforce that. These are men who genuinely live a life of service and they do it professionally and honorably. So I think that's important for you all to hear from the members of the public giving us that feedback. And I want to specifically say thank you to it was multiple occasions, multiple calls to all the members out at Station 32 and throughout the district to continue to provide that level of care to our communities. And with that, I will do my report for today.
Thank you for sharing that. Do we have, yes, Director Williams.
Chief, 2 things. Thanks so much for bringing that to our attention. I've always, one of the best things that we hear about it, from my perspective, that we do is get the chance to tell our people how good they are and pat them on the back for the work they do day in and day out. So thank you for bringing that to us. And please make sure that that crew gets the proper pat on the back. The second thing, we used to get updates or announcements when we'd have injuries on the day of the injury. We haven't been getting those. It would be nice if that could come back again. If there's any, I know most of the time there's nothing we can do, but it's just nice to hear, to be able to reach back out to you guys, staff that sends us those messages and say, hey, is there anything we can do for this member? Is there anything they need, anything that we could step up for? It'd just be nice to have that opportunity to do that.
I agree, and we want to support you all on that because I do know there's some value there. I'll look to the fire chief and we'll make sure that we close the loop on that and we make sure that you get that information as it occurs. Fortunately, it's not that often.
Fortunately,
we'll absolutely do that.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other comments or questions of the chief? Thank you, Chief. Very present. Next, we have administrative report from Deputy Chief Bailey.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Chief Haverty, Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration. Update for Community Relations Division. They're working with the City of Rancho Cordova and Citrus Heights to get fireworks safety messaging out. And Parker advised that they'll be filming a shoot with CHPD to use in our marketing. They'll also be filming with Sac Sheriff and RCPD on fireworks messaging. 30 Metro engines now have firework decals on them. Keep it safe, keep it legal. So you might see that out there as well. There was a successful open house at Station 68 on May 27th. Thank you to the CERT team for providing hands-only CPR education and 68A shift crew for spraying water and engaging with the community. Blair the dog made an appearance as well. Special thanks to Air Offs for having helicopter flyover at the open house, and there were several hundred community members there. So thanks for everyone who put that together. Captain Wilborn did a live interview this evening. It aired on Fox at 5 p.m. So you might be able to catch that on your DVR or social media as well. And then also just lastly for community services, they continue to disseminate information to the community preparing for the 4th of July. RFP for workers' compensation interviews are being held the last week of June. The expectation, it won't be completed by July 1st. Our current carrier has agreed to extend the contract month to month as we continue through the process. The projection is probably 3 to 4 months after July, we'll have that complete. But they're doing great work. So thanks to everyone involved in that process. Finance, we want to welcome Milton Mora as an accounting specialist. Finance has begun to meet with the district's new independent auditor And also finance has commenced its biannual district inventory. The process requiring to visit every fire station in the district for the inventory, and it will be completed by the month of June. Human resources, admin specialist interviews are scheduled for June 22nd. EC exam begins Monday through Thursday of next week will be the battalion chief's test. Again, congratulations to all 22 candidates who passed the captain's test. It's probably I think the largest list that we've had. And just starting from the day when live, we've been upgrading out of class 2 to 3, either firefighter engineers working out of class as captains, which obviously we want to keep engines open, and having that list is going to give people experience who aren't initially promoted, but to get that valuable experience that they need to be successful in the future. 1 fire investigator, 2 starting on June 12th. 1 office technician starting on June 12th as well. We have 1 office tech in backgrounds, 1 logistics tech in backgrounds. Let's see, the MMP Academy is scheduled to begin on July 10th. We moved that date up. I'm sure you've had many discussions with the fire chief. There's 10 EMTs and 15 paramedics that will be in that class. And then MMP 23-2, that's to be determined based on the needs of the district. Currently, we have 7 paramedics that are going to begin background on June 12th. So like you were stating, we're going to continue to bring people through and get them through background sooner. And then reserve firefighters, we have 4 reserve firefighters that will be starting on June 10th. So that is the end of my report. If there's any questions.
Do you have any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next, we have support services report for Deputy Chief Wagaman.
Good evening, President Clark, Board of Directors, Chief Haverty, Madam Clerk, and staff. Tyler Wagaman, Deputy Chief Support Services, with your branch update. Quick update on our community risk reduction tonight, as well as our facility. On the community risk reduction side is to dovetail on some of the work that is occurring on our administrative branch, and that has to do with our fireworks and fireworks enforcement. I know Chief Law, as well as our fire investigation unit, have been working tirelessly over the last several months with all of our regional partners and putting a solid plan together to combat illegal fireworks. I know this is a hot topic at this time of the year, and rest assured, the Metro Fire has done their homework and continues to lead the region when it comes to this type of work. She's putting, along with her staff, a solid plan together, which will utilize all of our fire investigators, a majority of our inspectors, as well as some of the other county agencies, Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, Citrus Heights PD, as well as Rancho Cordova Police Department and County Code Enforcement. So I commend her and her staff on the work thus far. And she's going to be presenting the upcoming County Board of Supervisor meeting on this plan as well, which is a recommendation to the County Board and something that we typically provide each and every year to the County Board of Supervisors. So I will be there to support them as well. Her and Chief Nygren will be there on the 12th. We are already starting to get an uptick in complaints regarding illegal fireworks for the community that is remoted in today. If you experience illegal fireworks activity in and around your community, in addition to your local law enforcement number, you can always access the Metro Fire website. And we have links there as well on the proper procedure for notifying agencies on the use of illegal fireworks. There's both emails and phone numbers for contact agencies, depending upon where you're calling from, either in the unincorporated area of the County of Sacramento, one of our contract cities, or the City of Sacramento. On our fire investigations unit, something that I look forward to reading at the end of each shift is their end-of-shift reports, and it has been exhaustingly busy. The last one I read was an investigator who worked 2 shifts at a total of 8 calls, and I know Director Saylors can attest to how busy that is. 8 calls as a fire investigator, 2 arrests, several commercial structures, residential structures, dumpster fires, grass fires, all the above. Just a lot of work going on and a lot of follow-up work. So that's 8 calls. They'll probably be following up on those 8 calls for the next several months. So the good news is that we have some relief ahead. As Chief Bailey indicated, we have a new fire investigator that's starting on the 12th, a very experienced law enforcement trained person, and we're going to brush up their skills on the fire investigation component. I have no doubt that he will hit the ground running, and he will be a breath of fresh air to our fire investigations group. Also, another indication of Metro Fire leading. Today, Metro Fire hosted the Sacramento Regional Fire Prevention Officers meeting. Over 25 people attended here. And again, Metro Fire led that. One of the topics of conversation was training as it related to high pile storage. So again, Metro Fire, again, leading the region in fire prevention. On the facilities front, some of the projects that our group is working on, they're installing gate at Station 54. For those of you that are not familiar with Station 54, it's a converted house. And we have a fire engine there, and we have a wildland engine. The wildland engine is adjacent to the station in a metal constructed building, and there is a manual gate. And every time that apparatus gets a call, it is somewhat delayed because they have to manually open that gate. So we're going to automate that gate. So the minute the tones go off, they can press the button and the gate can start to open up. So when they get in the apparatus to leave, they're not delayed any longer. So we're looking forward to that. Station 66 got a new AC unit. Again, we installed that. 3 AC units at Station 26. New paint for Station 66. It's been a long time coming. We added some additional bathroom privacy at Station 62. The captain's bathroom at Station 31 is getting completely overhauled. A weed abatement is underway as well as a cleanup project at Zinfandel Training. The Station 50 privacy project was awarded. Plans are currently underway. We hope to start on that project here very soon. And last but not least, and this is just to reinforce our hiring practices and to make sure that we are hiring knowledgeable people with skills that they bring to the table. As previously mentioned, Pete Noble, one of our new facilities technicians, brought some unique experience to the table. He has a lot of experience in concrete countertops as well as granite countertops. And sure enough, we just had a request come in, and rightfully so, for Station 41, who has a delaminated countertop. So guess what he will be doing here in the near future? He'll be installing a brand new countertop at Station 41, and rest assured, we will do that at pennies on the dollar because we can now do that in-house. We will take advantage of this experience that he's bringing to the table. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions for me.
We have a question on Director Saylors.
Thank you for that great report. But I also want to ask, for the 4th of July and the fireworks, will we be using the app Nail 'em or no? Okay, thank you. I got the nod of the head over there. Okay.
I'll be happy to follow up on the Nail 'em app if you'd like to ask the board.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Great report. All right. Next, we have firefighters local 522 report. Chief Cole is not going to be able to do that report, but we have Brian Cullen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So good evening, board, chief, members of the department. As you can tell, I am not Matt Cole. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Cowan. I'm a firefighter paramedic. I'm currently assigned Station 106 on the engine there on A shift. So I got the nod to come here on duty. So thanks to my crew for supporting that and the battalion chief as well. I've asked Matt to be more involved with some union stuff. And so this is one of the opportunities that he's presented to me is to kind of be more of a face in front of you guys, as well as the cities of Rancho Cordova, Citrus Heights, and the county as well. So he's out of town, like I said, so we're going to do this today. Last week, 522 was the lead participant in a Zoom call for all of the CPF District 2, and they gave a presentation on that PPG EMP. And as we discussed tonight, that's a pretty important thing for us because it relates to our budget. So that's good that we're involved in that as deep as Matt is. We'd also like to congratulate the 22 captains that are successful members of the department that passed that captain's test. And like we said, we've already seen them working online and even looking forward to the next couple of days of schedule. There's guys working out of class. So that's cool to see as well. We wish the upcoming candidates that are taking the BC test the best of luck next week as well. On Monday, we had a shop steward meeting with shop stewards from all the represented divisions. We had some good discussions about the changes in the deployment model, as highlighted by the chief with the upcoming things that you guys asked of phase 1.
Also some discussions on chief recruitment and the budget. 522 is looking forward to getting the labor management meeting scheduled so we can discuss in detail the deployment changes as approved by this board last meeting. So I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to getting to know more about you guys in the future. So if you have any questions, look at
the newbie here. Great job. Oh, great job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go to committee and delegate reports, executive committee, to be determined, communications center, JPA, DC Wagman. You have a.
We have not asked our last board meeting, no report.
All right, thank you, sir. Finance and audit committee, Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance and Audit Committee has not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting will be on July 27, 2023 at 5:30 here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And next we have a policy committee. I know we have.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. President. The policy committee met today to discuss revision to the family medical leave policy to include designated persons as recognized under state law. The committee heard that and moving forward, it will be coming to the full board for review and approval and a report.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have board member questions or comments. I'm going to start with Director Costa since you're on a roll.
All right. No questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay. Director Jones.
Quickly, Station 68 open house. Thank you all very much. Had a great time. And I look forward to more of those open houses in the future. Just a terrific opportunity for all the friends and neighbors in the area to come together and get to touch all the fire stuff, the hoses, the nozzles, the CPR, hands only CPR. It was just really, really great and a terrific turnout. And I'm also looking forward to, hopefully it's not canceled again, to Zinfandel tomorrow at 9:30 with Congressmember Ami Berra.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Jones. Okay, Director Saylors.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to congratulate all of the new captains that are out there in the stations, learning how to be captains. And good luck to everyone taking the BC's exam that's coming up. Welcome to all the new hires that are joining this membership. And a special thank you to Engine 117 B shift with dinner the other night. That was a nice chance to get back into a station and have a little dinner. Thank you very much. Just stay safe out there. Grass season's starting up. Rio Linda's burning. So stay safe out there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Director. Director Rice.
Just a couple of things. One, Chief Haverty, thank you for bringing up Battalion Chief John French. And I truly mean that. You two are cut from the same mold, and that's a compliment. I want to speak a little bit about John. He'll always be Chief French. I had 5 years in with him, and my first meeting with him was at Station 106. We were brand new, so it was late November. He came in, had never met him. And he started talking, and he had this little tiny piece of metal. And one of the first things I learned about Chief French was how important not only the fire service and firefighting is, but how important fire prevention is. And one of the things that John taught us, that was a fusible link from the Las Vegas MGM fire. And he was part of a task force of investigators that was part of that process to fully investigate it and come to answers on that fire and why there was such a loss of life, at least in the course of my career. It didn't happen in our city, but that was a Sentinel fire. And then Battalion Chief John French was a part of that. The second thing, and first I was honored to speak at the Recruit Academy, and I got to spend a couple of days with them so I could get a feel of it. And I was very humbled. I felt every one of my 62 years, there's no way I could do this job again. But what I learned, and I was impressed with the Recruit Academy class. I was impressed with now firefighters, every one of them, just a great job. But when I went out on a drill day, I got introduced to, and I'm going to get his name wrong, so please help me out, Robert or Bobby Siestito from Logistics. Is there a chance that we could have him in to just present to the board the process that goes on to decontaminate turnouts? I was very, very impressed with where Metro Fire is with that today. the care that's taken and the system that they have in place. And I think it would be, I know for me, I'd go back and listen again, but I think it would be really beneficial if maybe he could give us 10 or 15 minutes of presentation on what it takes to keep our members safe.
Sure.
And I appreciate it, him and Drill Master Sheetz for asking me to do that. It was a complete joy, and it's good to be here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Director. We'll absolutely arrange Bobby to come in. Thank you for mentioning him. I tell you what, where we're at in the safety world is light years ahead of most of the fire service, especially in California, but across the nation, and it's because of Bobby.
I am really impressed with the job that he's done and his knowledge, and just he had a lot of projections about what the future may look like, what we need to pay attention to, all of it. So thank you, Chief. Yes.
Thank you, Director. Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of things. Director Jones stole my thunder on 68. I want to say thanks to everyone that made that happen. It was an awesome open house. I'm looking forward to having our meeting out there coming up here shortly. So everyone can get a chance to get out and see what a wonderful facility we have there. I also want to say thanks to 62B, Captain Martinez, Engineer Botto, Firefighter Cavill, and Medic 62, Cotro and Betaline. I know I mispronounced those names, but I got to spend a few hours with them a couple of Saturdays ago and went out and looked at the river and the height of the river, the difficulties they have in launching the boats where they do off of 62. And it was great to sit down and talk to them, listen to what they had to say, what was on their mind, and be able to respond and have that conversation. So I appreciate their time. Lastly, just a reminder, Luau on the Lakes for the Burn Institute. We heard how important that Burn Institute is to our people. They are June 24th, 7 o'clock to 11, over at Pagan Oaks Park, the pavilion. We still need, the Burn Institute still needs members from Metro to come out and sell raffle tickets. So if you're out there, you're listening, you're a firefighter, they need you. Reach out. I'm sure Matt Cole, I can help put you in touch with the person at the Burn Institute. We happen to have a Burn Institute director sitting here too. I'm sure that would forward it. If you want to reach out to Director Rice, I'm sure he'd help. But we need firefighters there. We need volunteers there. And if you're not going to volunteer or be a firefighter selling tickets, then you should be there participating, enjoying the raffle auctions. I'm going to cash in on an auction I won last year here later in the month, going out to a winery in Napa. So there's great opportunity, great things. It's a great event. And mark your calendar for Friday, October 20th. That's the formal event, the 50-year celebration. It's going to be at the Elks Tower in Sacramento. There'll be more on that, but get out to the Burn Institute and support them, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Weber.
I have no comment.
All right, thank you, sir. I just want to thank everyone for the great reports and thank you, men and women of Metro Fire, for a great job. Like I always said, we're a premier institution and bar none, and appreciate you. That's all I have. Before we recess to the closed session, which is going to be very brief, I'd like to remind you of some of the next upcoming board meetings. June 22nd, special board meeting on June 24th, and special board meeting on June 25th. So hopefully when we come back out of closed session, which is going to be very brief, have a good night. Okay. All right. We'll just reset for
Recording stopped.
Even though he said it's gonna be brief,